Flood the zone, the exhaustion strategy. Steve Bannon has a phrase for one of his most effective tactics. He calls it flooding the zone with shit. His words, not mine. He said this in a 2018 interview. The Democrats don't matter. The real opposition is the media. And the way to deal with them is to flood the zone with shit. What does it actually mean? The tactic is putting out so much content, so many claims, so many provocations, so many stories all at once that people can't keep up. The goal isn't convincing anyone of a specific lie, but rather creating exhaustion and confusion until people give up trying to follow what's happening. When everything's a scandal, nothing is a scandal. And when there are 20 outrageous claims in a day, people stop being outraged and shut down instead. It's different from traditional propaganda, which tries to convince you of a specific false story. Flooding the zone doesn't care if you believe it or not. It just wants you too tired to fight back. Look at Trump's presidency, both his first term and now in his second, where every single day brings multiple stories, some true, some false, and some deliberately designed to provoke. By the time one claim has been investigated, there are 10 new ones to deal with. But this doesn't just target journalists or opposition politicians, it targets you when you're trying to stay informed or have conversations with your family or friends or in the comment section online. If you wake up and check the news, there's a new scandal, you're angry, you share it or you argue about it with someone. Then there's another and another. And by the end of the week, you're exhausted and start avoiding the news altogether. That's what they want because an exhausted, disengaged public is easier to manipulate than people who are alert and paying attention. So, why does it work? Your attention is a limited resource and you only have so much mental energy each day. Every time you see an outrageous headline, your brain has to process it, asking if it's true, should you be worried, what should you do, and that processing takes energy. When you're doing this dozens of times a day, you're exhausted before you've even had lunch. There's also the availability heuristic, which is how your brain judges how common or important something is based on how easily you can remember examples of it. When you're constantly seeing negative news, it feels like everything is terrible and getting worse, even when the data might show something different. And this creates a sense of constant crisis. People in crisis mode don't think strategically, they react. They look for simple solutions. They become more open to authoritarian appeals. When your brain is overwhelmed, it starts taking shortcuts where complex issues get reduced to tribal positions and nuance disappears, which is exactly what Bannon wants, because thoughtful political discussion is the enemy of his goals, whilst tribal, emotional, simplified politics works in his favour. The exhaustion also creates a kind of nihilism where you can't tell what's true anymore. Everything feels like performance or lies, and you stop believing anything matters. People start saying things like all politicians are corrupt, or both sides are the same, or nothing ever changes. But that's exhaustion pretending to be cynicism. What makes it particularly insidious is that this tactic works even when you know it's happening. Even when you're aware you're being manipulated, the psychological effects still occur because you still only have so much attention. You still get tired, you still feel overwhelmed. That's why we need actual strategies to counter this and not just awareness. So, why does fact checking fail? Traditional fact checking assumes the goal is truth, where you identify a false claim, investigate it, publish the correction, and people update their beliefs. But flooding the zone isn't about truth, it's about volume. So, when someone makes 50 false claims in a week and you spend your time debunking 5 of them in the comment sections or arguments with family, what have you achieved? You've spent your energy on their agenda, while they've moved on to 20 new provocations. Fact-checking also assumes people care about accuracy. When the goal is tribal signaling, facts become irrelevant because the claim isn't meant to be true. It's meant to show loyalty, provoke the other side, or signal group membership. Debunking a claim can actually strengthen belief in it for some people, something called the backfire effect. When you fact check something, you repeat the false claim in order to debunk it, and repetition makes things feel more true even when you're saying they're false. So, how does it play out? Look at Trump's presidency, where the media focuses on one story, analyzing it thoroughly, and then by the time they've finished, there's a provocative tweet, a new scandal, a firing, another tweet, and the news cycle can't keep up. People can't track what's actually happening with policies. In the United Kingdom during Brexit and under Boris Johnson, a lighter version played out with constant provocations and contradictions. During Brexit negotiations, the government would leak different positions to different papers. So one day it was hard Brexit, another day it was soft Brexit, every day different signals. So it wasn't incompetence, but strategy. Because if you keep everyone confused and exhausted, they stop being able to mount coherent opposition. And also, they might be sending different messages to different people. So, for the people who might be more receptive to hard Brexit, that's the message they would get. For the people who wanted a more soft Brexit, that's the message they would get. In Italy, Matteo Salvini, when he was interior minister, posted constantly on social media, multiple times a day, with every post designed to provoke. One day, photographed with far right symbols, and next day with police, then attacking immigrants, then the EU, then food pictures, and then back to anti immigrant rhetoric. The opposition spent all their time responding and never got to set their own agenda. In Brazil, under Bolsonaro, the same pattern was seen where the family would generate constant controversy around environmental policy, COVID denialism, attacks on judges, provocative statements. Civil society was constantly on the defensive, constantly fact checking, constantly outraged. And that exhaustion contributed to weakening the opposition and organized opposition. So the pattern is consistent: high volume of content, a mix of true and false claims, provocations designed to generate response, people spending energy reacting rather than setting agenda, and public exhaustion leading to disengagement. So that sounds exhausting, doesn't it? What can we do about it? So we can't respond to everything, and that's the trap. So the moment we're trying to like debunk everything in the comment sections or with friends and family, we've lost because we're letting them control the agenda. So we need to choose what actually matters or what's just noise designed to distract us. We need to ask ourselves whether this affects people's lives, whether it's substantive, or whether it's theatre designed to provoke. These days, that's really hard to do because even the things that seem the most theatrical actually, could come to pass, like Trump's third term, etc. Um, so that's making it a lot more difficult. But we do need to make a conscious decision about what deserves time and to let everything else go. So if we can't keep track of everything and we don't know what is the provocation or what something, if something is serious, then maybe it's best just to choose one battle, so to speak. This can feel wrong at first because it feels like you're letting them get away with things, but actually you're refusing to play their game. And sometimes it will mean ignoring the outrage of the day in a conversation or comment thread and talking about something completely different. And it feels strange because people might think you're not paying attention, but you're being strategic. You also can't do this alone. You need people who agree to focus on the same issues together. When a group decides collectively that they're focusing on, say, healthcare, um, or constitutional issues, then you have more power because you can actually move the conversation instead of being fragmented. Like it's just so much more powerful if you do it in a group because there's support there as well. But, you know, groups do tend to achieve more than individuals. So you could try setting specific times to check the news, maybe in the morning or the evening, and not constantly throughout the day, or else you're constantly being put into this fight or flight mode, and that's just going to raise your stress levels. So also you need to curate your sources and stop following accounts that are just outrage merchants, even when they're on your side. So stop hate reading and stop looking at what the other side is saying just to get angry because you're giving them your attention. When you feel exhausted, that's the tactic working on you. The response is recognizing you're being deliberately overwhelmed and stepping back. Take breaks, days, well, days where you don't look at the political news. Well, um, I'm not saying to ignore it entirely because you really do need to be following it at the moment, but take a break at the weekend. Focus on local issues where you can actually have an impact, like community organizing, local council decisions, because that can really sort of help you feel more able to influence things. They want you running around putting out fires whilst they're lighting more. So to counter it, focusing on what actually matters and letting some fires burn out themselves can help. So in the next episode, we're going to look at building alternative realities, how they created separate information ecosystems, and why traditional media can't compete.